Hey, how's everyone? I've actually was conversing during the 2 minutes on the Book of Faces, so I'll let that come down. Hopefully, everybody's doing good today. Yeah, the queens are it's surprising that you just move the frames over, and as soon as you move those frames, uh, the bees know, right? They come up and get on that cage, and then you can kind of watch the cage and see if they're curling that butt under trying to sting her or if they're trying to feed her with their face, right? And those bees were definitely trying to feed her with their proboscis, and so they're doing good. But I've got a ton left. I mean, I've got a ton of splits left to do. I think I went through 12, about 16 splits I made this afternoon, and I got plenty more to do. So I'm having to slowly move it in. I'll do the bulk of it tomorrow night, and probably Saturday, and then I can get everything else tightened up. You know, if I can go back on those original two framers. If I need to shake some bees into a Pro Nuke and then add them, we can. I do have the link posted up there, guys. If in fact you are so inclined this evening to come in, you know, we got 18 coming in right now and only 4 thumbs up, 5 with mine. And you know, we'll talk some bees tonight, see what's going on, what people want to do. I've got my serious Alan at Old McNally's.
We didn't figure you were going to recognize that one.
I stopped him dead in his tracks. He's just like,
if you would have just put Alan, I looked, and you know, even with these glasses, I was like, wait a minute, I don't recognize. Oh yeah, the guy that's always in the background. What's going on, James?
Well, we are going to get more feeder buckets. So it's that time of year up here.
To put it on.
Got to get them ready for winter.
Well, yesterday I started seeing some pollen starting to come back in. So that's telling me the goldenrod is starting to do its thing.
Oh, well, you're getting a second flow.
Yep. And it's kind of funny how things just are kind of so far falling in line with these splits that I'm doing. I pulled in from work, and the UPS guy walked by my window as I'm pulling in the driveway. I'm like, I'll take those. And so I started in the back where I had those swarm colonies.
Oh, yes.
And I broke them all down into 2 framers with queens. So I know how you feel about 2 framers. Just go ahead and
2 framers, Bob. What the hell are you doing?
Hey, that's a big split for that little box.
Oh my God. Well, I'm just going to reserve on YouTube here, worldwide. I'm just going to reserve my "I told you so" now.
Well, the good thing is that I'm playing the odds, right? I'm playing those odds right now. So I didn't go into any of the colonies that I've actually built up over this year, other than the one that I've got the additional queens being banked in right now. So so that was pretty interesting. I mean, the bees all accepted the queen. Now I know. Go ahead, James. I know that you guys are done and getting ready to move them in because you're getting ready to become the land of the frozen tundra up there. And I've got a good 2 months, at least 2.5 months before it's even cold enough at night to where they might think about clustering. So,
and do you have enough drawn comb for all of these bees?
You know, amazingly enough, because I lost 5, right, big ones, that I had 50 extra frames to go with the frames that I'm splitting out of their colonies. So far, yes, I've got enough.
Why do you lose them?
Got her. So I mean, you might, and you try it. Who knows, right? You might get away with that. It's just without a flow, they just don't draw that comb very well, right?
Right. Well, I'm getting ready to toss feed to them as well.
Okay.
But I didn't want to put feed on the little ones until I'm going to feed the big ones first and then come back to the little ones. So they have a little bit of feed in there from the frames, obviously, and there's not as many bees, but I got to get the big ones fed up before I can start slapping any feed on the little ones. And to answer Alan's question, the infamous hive beetle and wax moth is why I lost 5 colonies. So,
Oh yeah,
there you go.
gotcha.
But, well, all I'll say is let's see how those 2 frames splits work.
well, they are mating nukes, okay? They are mating nukes. But what I'm doing is buying time, right? So I happen to know that next month or next week, I'm getting a pretty sizable commission check from my job. So there may be some purchases in order. I'm just saying. Could be a whole different thing. I might have a whole yard of Lyson hives by next week. We don't know.
Those poly hives?
Nukes. Maybe nukes. Maybe nukes.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So we'll see. We'll see what craziness I come up with.
More gadgets.
Well, plus I've got, I do have queens listed on the Book of Faces too. So ideally 50% of those queens will sell to people that need to replace or whatever. And those 50% should pay for my 50%, right? Offset the cost.
Got it.
Then it's just a gamble with swarm colonies, right?
Okay.
Then it's okay when they're free.
But when it doesn't work out, they're not so free.
Right, that's true. You're right. You're right.
Oh, well, like you say, let's see how it works out.
So how many buckets are you buying?
Buying? No, not buying any. We're just out here at the bee barn, so we're gonna need, what did we say, 150, 200 more?
150-ish.
So
So
give a few.
But you're not even sweating. Have you even been to the bee yard today?
Not yet.
Well, it's Canada. Do you sweat in Canada?
Oh yes, we do.
So he just left you all alone. Look at you, Alan. You're the star.
I am. He's trying to get in. Now his phone's going off because they know he's here.
It's warning him that he's going in his own building right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Had to.
So you're getting buckets so you can feed him up. He's already got the feed mixed and everything.
No, we haven't. We got the buckets out here. Then we got a tank out here. They got to mix it in, and that's what we use to feed them. And drive out to the apiaries and pump it off. Instead of trying to pack pails full of stuff, it's just empty pails. Just
right. Well, the now I know with the expansion, I wonder if he had to get more pails too, right?
Yeah, I grabbed 100 of them. So we had 50 before, and then we grabbed another 100.
All right. So
that should cover it. If not, it's only a couple days out.
Yeah, I thought you were you guys sitting over 200 yet over there?
No, not quite.
Thought you guys were close to 200 colonies out there.
I think it's close to 150 right now is what it is.
All right, so
we'll let you know here that when for sure we'll have to recount them again because math is hard. We're getting old.
It's not the math part; it's remembering the count.
That too, yeah.
Wait a minute, did I say 20 or 40? Oh yeah, okay. Then you end up. Oh, we need to go back. I was 20 short.
Yeah. Oh, was that a pallet or was that 2 on a pallet? Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. So you guys have them stacked up. He's just gonna pull them out there, or?
Yeah, we got them in a box.
few buckets.
James has got short arms. He can't do too much.
He's like a T-Rex. Yeah. Look at all them boxes.
Yeah. Look at all those boxes. They got stuff in them too. That's work in those boxes.
That's right. They look good. Little honey.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Brad started his harvest today too, James.
He started his what?
He started his harvest today.
Oh, there you go. We're going to fire that machine up tonight.
He sent me a photo that his stack of boxes was taller than his hive lifter that he was trying to load. Next, we'll be getting the I hurt my back with too many boxes on my hive lifter.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys look like you got your work cut out for you, though.
Yeah, we pretty much got that thing ready to go, along with the uncapping tank from last night.
So is the you guys got the uncapper put back together?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, sitting on the uncapping tank, and just had to add a couple pins to it. We're ready to roll.
Is it all tweaked in now?
It will be tonight. Yeah.
All right, cool. And tomorrow night, James is coming on with the 4-H'ers over on Charlie's channel.
Yep.
So it's going to be a interesting evening.
Yeah.
I have to do this show tonight so I can be on my best behavior tomorrow with the kiddos.
I'm all talked out.
It's so I can train myself to keep my language in check and everything else,
Oh yeah.
But so how long you guys think it's going to take to fill and feed out there?
Like to fill the pails up? Is that what you're referring to, or what?
Fill the pails and put them on the colonies.
It doesn't take long. An hour and a half, maybe. Well, one spot. We got 3 yards to go to.
Well, you guys,
But I don't know if we'll get it done tonight. We'll get it mixed up.
right?
That's this weekend's project.
Getting
Because
feed
there's
on
the 1
everything.
yard we haven't quite got totally cleaned out of honey. So
Right. And as soon as that's done, you go back and start putting buckets on.
yeah, just got to pull it and then throw buckets on it.
Nice. Let me see. I got people chatting over here. Hey, 3 Oaks. Got a bunch of people popped in here. I haven't said hi to anyone. I'll say hello to everyone, and that way, I'm inclusive.
Yeah.
So how many years have you been working bees there, Alan?
2 years more than James.
Really, 2 years longer than James.
Yeah.
So really we should be watching your channel with James standing in the background.
Yeah, no, I didn't get on there. I'm not one to watch myself talk. But yeah, no, we got him going. It's because it all started over a swarm for him. So
he got excited about it.
yeah, we'd mentioned it. Yeah, you should get into bees, because he had an acreage and stuff at the time. It's like, no. But then once you got him into a swarm, well, it's just like anything else. You get hooked and got to keep going.
Oh yeah. And then he went out and bought the Flow Hive.
Yeah. But that's not commercial wise though.
Plugs must be at the house.
We're Hey, we've got a new rule, James.
Oh, what's that?
Alan's going to start a channel, and you've got to stand in the background because he's actually been keeping bees longer than you.
He has by
2 years.
yeah, I was gonna say a couple of years. Yep, he was the one that got me into it.
Yeah. Boy, I bet he's regretting that every day now. He's like,
Well, let's put it this way: on Saturday, or was it Sunday? I take a look at this.
Can you see that out there?
hold on, let me make you bigger here. Bees?
Nope,
What is it?
it's a deer standing right there in the yard.
Is he way back there?
Yeah. Here. A little buck.
You should just zoom your camera in on him. Oh, yeah, I see him now.
What is it, though? Yep.
Now that it turned to the side.
Pretty brave, being as today's the first day of hunting season up here.
Oh, he didn't get the memo.
She didn't get the memo.
He didn't get the memo.
Normally, there's a little one with her somewhere, but
That's one bow shot from the dinner table.
Oh, she's walking right up to the dinner table. She's coming for dinner. She's a special guest.
So 150 buckets, probably a couple hours in that, and then you're coming back to extract honey out.
Correct.
So you're going to be doing a late night. Well, every night's a late night.
Yeah, we've been 10, 11 o'clock at least every night, eh?
What's your temperature up there?
22 degrees right now. Yeah, so Alan, he comes and helps me till 10 or 11 o'clock, and then he runs out to the farm and helps his brother until midnight, 1 o'clock.
Holy moly.
And he has a full-time job, so you guys thought I was busy.
So 22 is like room temperature, 72 degrees.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's why you can get away with a truck with no AC.
We can get away with what?
A truck with no AC.
Oh, well, you know, you have to make do with the tools you got. So I just have a hard time putting a $3,000 or $4,000 AC unit in a truck that's worth $1,500.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if Toyota would get off their butt, I've had one on order since February, I think. So as crazy as that is.
Bob, it's okay. We know how you guys with nuclear problems lose your minds. We forgive because we understand. Ziggy.
Speaking of nuclear, if you go on to windy.com, they actually have nuclear radiation stations that test all over. So between Canada and US, it kind of does a zigzag across the border.
Right.
You go to the European side, holy smack, it's solid over there.
It's called windy.com.
Windy.com. You probably see a lot of that on the news, that same pictures and stuff that they use.
I'm trying to see where the little thing is for the
and you
for
go
the
down
radiation.
on the right hand side, they do give you stuff like fire and all that other stuff, or rain or snow.
Rain, thunder, temperature, clouds, waves, air quality, more layers. I bet you it's in there, right?
It should pop up at the top, but it was actually the radiation, I think is what it's called. I just think mine was up today because I had been in there before and looked at it.
It doesn't give me radiation on mine. That's probably because we're the biggest failure on that. Well, obviously with Chernobyl and
it's on there, and they are like in the 7,000s for radiation. And then it goes down lower than that. But you can tell where Chernobyl is when you look at it.
Thermals, swell 2, sea temperature, wind waves, tidal currents. Yeah, I don't see radiation.
There's it's a layer. One of the things you got to add to it. You'll find it. Just search.
Yeah, I'll have to search for it. Or maybe I have to go premium for that.
Nope, you don't. I don't pay for that stuff.
Radiation. I'll find it. So you just got me going down that rabbit hole now.
Squirrel.
But hey, you can just pinpoint, just move your cursor and it tells you the temperature. You zoom in and zoom out, you can tell like where all the wind's coming from and why you get all the smoke. And all that.
James, Steve said he looked at a Tundra. They wanted 80 grand plus 20 grand more surcharge.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Show me any other vehicle that you'll get that kind of warranty and kilometers and everything on it, though.
Yeah, but you can buy like 4 of the other ones. Well, not really, probably 2 for 100 grand.
Just go buy a Dodge. That's everybody's cheap vehicle.
Brad's gonna have something to say about that one now.
I was gonna say, now that wasn't me.
The
They don't make any with skis. That's an option.
Yeah, Brad's.
keys. Yeah, I'll definitely look find this thing. But now I gotta put it off because if I don't, I'll stare at it instead of the screen. So so how much honey do you think you have sitting there in the house right now, in the honey house?
There is, what is there right there? What did we count? 54 or 56 deeps?
56 deeps right now?
Yeah.
And you've got more still to pull?
Oh yeah, we still got more to pull at all three apiaries.
Surprised Charlie hadn't popped in.
He was at a meeting, I think. I texted him earlier, and he said he was in.
Oh, he had a meeting tonight?
There, so.
Let's see. Don't talk so much, James. Might get the wrong idea.
Oh, I'm trying to drive. I'm trying to drive. That's why got Alan. That's why he dialed in there. Turn his phone the other way, then it fits right down here. Now everybody, see now. If you put this picture on your YouTube, everybody will know who it was. I think everybody's seen more of the backside of my steering wheel than me here this year. So I've definitely put on a few kilometers.
Well, you know, it was funny because we were talking about you last night. Todd said, hey, swing over and pick me up for the conference. Now I'm on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast, right? It turns out
that would be about right.
It's a 37-hour drive. And I said, well, heck, James did it in a weekend, 18 hours each way.
I did so.
So, and that's literally like driving from South Carolina to California.
Yeah, it's just a weekend trip.
Just a weekend trip, right? By airplane, I would do it by airplane. Be like, come on, let's go.
Well, I think that's the thing that most people don't realize about the geographic location of where I'm at. I mean, aside from the small local bee store, the next closest place I can get anything is a 4.5 to 5 hour drive away.
Right.
that's just the way it is. You know, we have a lot of the amenities up here, but there's really nothing for, say, beekeeping up here. I mean, we got all the big box stores, we've got, you know, all the food stores and stuff like that, but we don't have really anything for beekeeping supplies.
Kind of like me. Or if you do have one, then you don't have one that has enough equipment for what you need.
Well, there's that whole story too, right? And unfortunately, everything is priced in there for the backyard beekeeper. You know, so if I wanted to go in there and buy 100 excluders, well, they haven't sold 100 excluders in the last 3 years. Never mind one sale, right?
Right.
So.
And then you've got the I mean, that's kind of the whole dilemma. I mean, like even with the queens, people, the first thing they ask you is how much are your queens, right? Well, they're $40. Just like if you ordered them, which I had to do, and put my money at risk while I'm tending these queens until you come over here, right? So if they're a little bit higher than what you're expecting, I'm sorry, but I've got $1,100 tied up sitting there, right? Exactly. So you can either pay it or I'll split and make a calling, and next year you'll buy it from me in a nuke.
Well, I mean, that's just business, I guess, right? So, you know, and I have no problem. Like, if there's something I need here at the local bee store, I'll try to support them as long as it is an acceptable markup, and I understand there's overhead and things like that. You know, but when it comes to, you know, paying for large quantity of items, you know, at that elevated price, it just doesn't make sense because, you know, as you guys know, I can drive all the way over to Winnipeg. You know, I can drive for, you know, 18 hours and pick my stuff up and bring it back cheaper than I can pay the freight to get it. So that's what you do.
Well, the other thing is when you order in bulk from the manufacturer, they will cut you a break, which is cheaper than buying it from the store.
Yeah. You know, which it's a double-edged sword because it's nice to have that store here when you need that one thing, you know.
Right.
Oh, I've you know, I ran over my smoker.
You did?
I need a smoker. Right, you know, something like that. Yeah, he's gonna give me a poke on that one, I'm sure. But no, I have to admit that was priceless to see it hanging on the wall there. I thought that was just absolutely priceless. But things like that. I mean, you know, I have an extra smoker, but I don't have 2 extra smokers. You know, just something like that. It's always nice to have that local store that you can run down and pick up that one thing
and I don't feel bad if I'm getting that one item and paying retail for it, right? That doesn't really break me up too much. You know, it's like, hey, I need it. It's a convenience. Like going to the convenience store. You know you're going to pay more for milk at the convenience store than you are at the grocery store.
Yeah.
But it's that convenience factor.
Well, I mean, we're looking at purchasing 4,000 to 6,000 frames.
Right.
You know, well, here's the price per frame, and we'll throw the freight on top of it. Well, I might as well order those direct myself and save that middleman markup, because if I'm going to have to pay the freight on it, I might as well just save a little bit of that money and order it directly from the manufacturer.
Right.
You know, but yeah, it's always a tough one to figure out which is the best way to go there. So, but here's another note. So I was a little concerned maybe I wouldn't be able to get rid of all of my honey this year, but earlier today I managed to secure a sale for 2 45-gallon drums. So that's good.
To the meadery?
What's that?
To the meadery, maybe?
To the meadery, yep. So they're willing to make a large portion of their product this year from my honey. So that's great news.
Nice. That is great news. I don't have a meadery here per se. I've got some microbreweries, but I don't have the honey to support that type of sale anyway right now.
you know, when I approached some of the microbreweries, a lot of them never even thought about making mead. And most of the ones that I approached, they were very interested in it because it's kind of a bit of a niche, and not everybody has it, and it's not easily available. So there was quite a few of those microbreweries. I would, you know, if somebody could get in with one of those, I think it would be probably well worth your time. And some of those microbreweries make micro. They're micro for a reason. They don't make the great big batches, right?
Right. But yeah, I've got a few. Well, see, and that's the thing where then when you wholesale that, are you wholesaling it at the same price? I mean, the going rate that you're getting per pound, or are you wholesaling it at a cheaper price per pound?
For that amount, I am wholesaling it at a discounted rate. Now, it's above what I would get if I sold it to the co-op, but it's below what I would get if I had to bottle it. Now, I don't have to bottle it. I don't have the cost of bottling it. I don't have the time to bottle it. So all of that is worth something.
As long as they don't let it crystallize before they use it.
Yeah, actually, they have no problem with that. They have everything they need to. They have the blankets for the drums and stuff like that. So they've been doing this for quite a few years.
Well, that'll be good. And still no word back from the co-op then?
I haven't heard anything back from the co-op as of yet, but our tech program now. So I did receive a package in the mail from the Alberta Tech Transfer Program. So I think you've heard other people talk about it. You know, the Manitoba Tech, Saskatchewan Tech. So Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta have a tech transfer program. So one of the things they're working on this year is a little bit more of tracking and control of pests and viruses.
Right.
So from what I understand, every registered beekeeper in Alberta got a Varroa shape jug and samples and everything like that, how to set up a pest management program or a PID. So it was interesting to see that, you know, it's nice to see that the tech transfer programs are going to that extent. Now, I have a pest management program that I have developed. I mean, we've kind of touched bases on some of those things that I'm doing, and I am trying some new things as well. But it's nice to see that they are supporting the smaller beekeepers because Adrian, she was one of my students here a couple of years ago. So she's got 3. All she has is 3 hives now, and she received one of those Varroa sample jugs and everything like that as well. So it's really nice to see that the Alberta government is supporting the tech transfer program and the pest management control like that. So I think that's awesome.
I saw a post today. Let me see if I can see it here. And they said that with Varroa, it says 12 hours exposure to 106 Fahrenheit would kill nearly half of the mites, and 6 hours at 108 would kill nearly all of them.
And what can the bees tolerate?
And that's, well, I don't know. They tolerate some pretty hot temperatures down indexes and all, but I don't know if that includes the heat index or if that's just the regular temperature.
It would have been interesting to know what you guys, with the heat that you had, what the internal temperature of your hive was this year. That would have been interesting to know.
Well, tell those guys you're talking to at the universities, I'll happily send them a box of hive beetles that they can find something to destroy those things.
Yeah. And I see you went back to the peppermint.
Oh, I pulled out all the stops, Swiffer sheets on my production hives and peppermints, and trying to knock them down. If you watched a little video today when I popped that bottom board on that 10 frame, swarm colony, the one that was always feisty. I'm like, well, here's why they're feisty. They're fighting all these beetles, and there was probably 100 beetles on the bottom board that they were running around chasing, trying to harass.
That's the larva.
And then that's the biggest problem I have. A lot of people treat the ground. I treated the ground, and that's great to try to break the reproduction cycle. But the damage is done in the colony prior to that, right? They fly in as a beetle, which means the ground stuff doesn't affect them. And then they lay their larva in the colony, and then it just totally wrecks it. And then you got a bottom board full of maggots, basically.
So would a screen bottom board and a sticky board work better for you, Bob?
Well, I've got screen bottom boards that I've been using, and one of them was the Lyson Polyhive, and I lost that. It was a double deep. Now, can I say it was hive beetles? No, I can't say it was wax moss. I didn't see any wax moss in there, but other than that, there was really no reason that they would have just left for no reason.
They thought you were going to split them down into 2-frame splits. They're like, we're out of here.
Not that one. Hey, I did move those though. So I am kind of rearranging my yard as I'm doing these. So we're going to see. Let me see. Bunch of people over there. And you know what? We learned something very interesting about Brad last night.
They're gone, but they only stayed in the barn.
Sorry, I missed that. What were we saying?
We learned something very interesting about Brad last night.
Oh, do tell.
That and you probably already know, but he is a great impressionist.
Oh, did he give you your Bubbles impression?
No, The Simpsons, a little Joe Pesci, a little Al Pacino.
Yeah, he's got a really good Bubbles impression too. Ask him to put on his 6X glasses and give you a Bubbles impression.
He did that after the show, right? So nobody would see. I told him that he should do his vlog or do shorts like Homer Simpson makes a split, and he's showing the colony, and you hear the voice of Homer. Oh, he did Arnold too, yeah. And we were just rolling laughing at him last night.
I'll have to go back and check that one out.
Oh, it was in the VIP room. You didn't come in last night.
Yeah, we were busy putting the uncapper together last night.
I figured you guys were. You guys, I mean, this is your time of the year, right? So this is when the stuff's happening the most. So,
well, and it's definitely the busy time of year, and it's about to get busier because on our way out to get these buckets and stuff. I mean, the combines are going in the field now, so I know I'm going to lose Alan's help here shortly as they start to take the crops and stuff off too. So,
right.
It's that time of year. It's when all of the farmers and us in the agricultural industry, I mean, this is what we've worked all year long for. So you got to capitalize on it now.
Well, it is kind of a symbiotic relationship, right? I mean, they go hand in hand with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And when they're done, you're done for the most part. So, yeah, everybody's going to be pretty busy here.
So I'm going to throw I hope you don't mind if I hijack your channel here for 2 minutes, Bob.
No, I don't.
So I don't know if there's anybody watching. I don't know how many people watch the news or anything like that. But I'm just driving down Grand Prairie, and in front of me, I see a Northwest Territories license plate. So something that maybe a lot of the viewers don't know is I lived for years in the Northwest Territories, in Fort Smith and in Yellowknife. And all of those communities, so Fort Smith, Hay River, Yellowknife, and Enterprise, have all been evacuated inside of the last week due to the wildfires up there. So the wildfire is expected to hit Hay River tonight. So, any wishes or prayers or anything that anybody would like to send along to all the friends and family and people up there would be appreciated, because Grand Prairie is full. The hotels and stuff here in Grand Prairie are full. Yellowknife, city of 20,000 people, was out, basically told they've got 24 hours to get out. And to give you an idea of really how bad it is, people have lost their vehicles and lost their lives trying to drive out on the roads as a fire overcame their vehicles and their trailers. So it is really not a good situation up there.
When does it stop burning? When the snow hits?
Well, usually
it seems like this whole year Canada's been on fire.
This has been a really, really horrible year. So, but I just thought of it as I see another Northwest Territory plate in front of me. So I know a lot of my friends and stuff like that have been affected by it, both in Yellowknife and from Fort Smith. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep them in our thoughts and prayers for sure.
Like we've got people, so everything high level is full with them. Grand Prairie, they're full. Valley View, Hay River, or Valley View, Whitecourt, St. Albert. They're now Edmonton, Calgary, and Red Deer are taking evacuees as well. To give you an idea, how many people have been affected by those wildfires.
Jeremy's still selling his stuff over there.
What happened there? Something about a nail in the hand, or is it just because he's moving back? Or
well, he's got his fifth child is coming, so that's the first thing.
Every vehicle in front of me has a Northwest Territory plate on it. So his fifth child's coming.
His fifth child's coming, and
he's got a lot of family obligations then.
Yeah, and he works his daytime job, and then he spends all weekend at the markets trying to sell the honey. So he just said he had to take a couple seasons off, and they're probably going to move back to Georgia, Alabama area. But yes, he did shoot himself in the hand with a cordless nail gun. He said he put it in. You got to press the little button down and he said, but there was a delay. So he pushed the button and then he picked it up, and then it went off and shot him in the hand. They said it went, I think it was a 3.5-inch nail, and it went 2.5 inches in his hand.
I bet he felt that right away.
He said amazingly enough, he didn't feel it that first puncture, but it didn't take long to get the pain. Bruce Brown says, ask James if the fire is in Wood Buffalo National Park.
It is so, yes. That is one of them. Now, though, the fire in Wood Buffalo National Park is what has caused everybody from Fort Smith to evacuate.
So I went over to Jeremy's channel here. This is an advisory notice right here.
Ouch.
Yep, that's the
oh dear.
In his hand. He says amazingly it didn't injure anything really other than puncture him. So
that one or two nails?
Well, that's one nail sitting next to it, so you can kind of get an idea how far it's in his hand.
Oh, okay, got it.
So yeah,
that's one of those things you hope you only ever do once.
Yeah. I don't hope I ever do it. See, another reason why you buy your equipment assembled.
Yeah. Oh, he was using a 3-inch nail to build a box?
I don't know what he was using. I forget what he said he was using it for. I think he was building something. Oh, shelves for his wife or something.
Oh, well, that's why. That's what did it.
I said, there's better ways to get out of that. Say, hey, why don't we go to dinner today? Or, she'll be like, okay. And then when she says her shelves didn't get done, well, you remember we went to dinner that night, and
that's where you're like, you know what? I think you should go get your nails done, or maybe you need a pedicure, or Geez, that's great. Maybe let's go visit your sister. No, we don't want to go there. And then you got twice the trouble. What am I saying?
I heard there was a sale going on at this store.
Yeah. My wife
need some new
not a big
khakis.
stopper, so.
Well, yeah, that's why you say I need some new khakis. Can you go get them for me?
Yeah, there you go. We're horrible for that actually in our house because we look at it this way. We don't buy things frivolously, but at the same token, if there's something you need, just go get it. If you need it, just go get it.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, we do the same thing. It's so hard at Christmas time because my wife's like, "What do you want?" Nothing. I've already bought it. If I needed it or wanted it, I just bought it. It's and I buy a lot of stuff. You've seen.
You have a few gadgets, yep.
The Gadget Master. Inspector Gadget, that's what it is. So, you know what? I've learned about Canadians since Hive Life Conference and you guys blessing our channel. And this, I don't know how to take it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I'm curious now.
Canada's the only place that I've ever heard of. I was talking to Brad. Brad has been a bus driver, a culinary expert, a machine shop. He's worked in a machine shop. He's been a CDL.
Computer tech.
Yeah, IT. So he's done a lot of different things like that. And then you look at you. You're a maintenance supervisor, commercial airline pilot, beekeeper. I mean, you're
journeyman sheet metal mechanic, oil burner mechanic, journeyman plumber, minor degree in engineering. I have a business major.
Right. It's like the unemployment rate in Canada must be so low that you guys can be like, I'm a janitor. Tomorrow I'm going to be a nuclear engineer. Let me just put my resume in.
It's all that free college, right?
There's no free college up here, Charlie. Let me tell you, we pay for it. We pay for it dearly.
Taxes.
I think what it is opportunity. I think Canadian. If you ask me about it, I would say Canadians are very good at taking advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is we're not afraid to get dirty.
Right.
If the job needs to get done, well, it needs to get done. Somebody's got to do it. It makes no difference if you're a janitor or a beekeeper. I mean, it makes no difference.
But it makes me think of Pauly Shore when he's like, I majored in karate 2 semesters. You know, what movie was that? You know what I'm talking about, right? When he's in college forever and he's like, I did that for 1 semester, the whole movie. But it's like, I'm the same way. People say, I'll get to talking to somebody and they'll be like, oh, yeah, well, I used to drive a truck. I was a police officer. I was in the military. I'm in pest sales or this sales or worked at this place. And they're like, man, you've done a lot of things. Well,
I do have to admit, being a pest control specialist and a beekeeper, that's a little bit of a conflict of interest there, Bob.
But I sold $30 worth of honey today at a customer's house. They're like, oh, do you have any honey? I said, well, I do, because one of the guys at work asked me to bring them. But if you want to get them, you can get them, and then I'll just bring some more tomorrow for him. So
always have a box full of honey in your car. I always have it. Never know.
But
James, I'll email you those links tonight as soon as I get done.
Perfect. Yeah, like I said, all the fjorters, they can't get together, but they're all going to log on from their own phones. So.
Okay. And I've got Old McNally Hobby Farms at gmail.com.
That'll work. Yep.
Okay.
Then you can group email everybody.
Yeah, or you can text it to me, whatever works for you.
All right.
Probably easier to text it, and then you probably got them all on group text, right?
I do. Yep.
And then you send the link out to them, and they can all click the link on their phones. And
they don't have computers.
They probably do.
These are teenagers, Charlie. They eat, breathe, work, sleep, and and everything else off their phone.
Right.
I know my son's like that. I'm like, how can you read everything? You know, I like nice big screen.
How many do you need? We're just trying to figure out how much sugar we got to haul out of Alan's garage here. On the grass? Oh,
Enough to make 150 gallons.
no. Yeah, we got to make a bit.
So let's do the math. 150 gallons is.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. So I can't do it all at once. So I do it in batches of what is it here? I think it's 40 gallons. So
Okay.
I have 40 hives at an apiary. Each one of them gets a gallon jug. So that's why I mix it up in 40 gallons, which ironically enough is exactly what the Aphis Biologics package will mix into.
That's 320 pounds of honey. I mean, 320 pounds of sugar that you need to make one.
I put 20 gallons of water, 250 pounds of sugar makes 40 gallons.
Yeah, well,
and then a tablespoon of Apis Biologic.
Oh, I just cheat. I just buy the small packages.
Smoke?
It's so 200 liters. It's all marked out. So 200 liters of water go in there. So we need 400 pounds of sugar. Anyways, I'm just gonna put you guys on hold while we load this up.
All right, great.
All right.
The hey, Wiz and Hunt, I'm glad you finally got some bees, brother. Good to see that. So figure this: I have one hive and 2 nukes in my one hive. I did a split to keep it from swarming, and it still swarmed, and I still got a super full of honey. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I always get my swarms after the first honey flow. The Charlie, how was the tractor today?
I got done. I got done. I went out and I felt the hay, and it was pretty dry, a little bit gummy, but pretty dry. Ready to go tomorrow. Guess what happened about an hour later?
Rain.
It rained. And I looked on my radar. Where did it rain? Right here.
Only over your farm.
only over our area. It was just this one cell. And then my son has fields several miles away. I said, text him. I said, it's raining here. And he looked on there, and over there where he was at, it's dry. And then when he came up the road a couple miles, I think he said you could see where the roadway was wet and all that. So,
right.
Yeah,
we get those little, I don't know, they're just little area. You'll get a little rain in one section where you can actually see where it starts and where it stops when you're going through it. We'll get those every so often, but it's been muggy. I actually bought a dehumidifier today for the inside of the house, and within about an hour, half of the tray inside of the dehumidifier was full of water already. That's how much moisture was in the air in the house.
no air conditioning.
Yeah, that's with the air conditioning. If I walked outside and showed you the moisture that's coming out of that drain pipe on the air conditioner, it's like a river. It's just constantly flowing. A lot of them just drip, drip, drip. Not mine. Mine's running out.
What was that short did you put up? Was water coming out of somebody's house or something?
Oh, that was a home I went to spray for bugs, and it had water running out out of the bottom like a leaky pipe or something.
Mm.
But yeah, today's been pretty busy. I've split up those swarm colonies, gave them some queens, and they went to them. They took to the new queen.
I've seen some videos there this evening when I got home.
That they took right to them. They weren't trying to sting them. They were like, please give us a queen.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, honey they don't like ugly looking hay. But don't worry though. Hey, they got rained on. It's going to it's not my hay. It's actually my neighbor's hay that we help. And he's got horses and goats. And they'll eat it just fine. But Did you get your 50 put in?
No, hell no. I got 16 put in. He sent me 54.
Yeah, usually they always send you a few extra in case if one of them dies.
And all of them lived. I had them all banked, and then I took out the 12 and started breaking down those the swarm colonies that I had in the back. That's the ones that I was working with.
There he is.
Just a little sugar.
That's enough for 40 colonies is all. One round. That's enough for one container for 40 colonies. We'll put about 8 times that. Well, not quite. 4 times, I guess. 4 or 5 times that in each one. So.
Hey Mark, that's a brand new machine. It's not even 6 months. You're 6 months old. New AC unit. And I mean, that doesn't mean they didn't get dirty, but it's a brand new unit there. But I did get the first round split. And main thing was I wanted to reduce the amount of queens that I had banked in that colony. So to make sure they got good bee coverage over them. And they did. I mean,
You're talking about the ones that you received, or?
Yeah. So the way they're received, they'll have a piece of cardboard over the bottom half with the candy in it, and they're 14 in a pack, and they're taped around the cardboard, and then he puts a rubber band around the other way, and so they can't get to the candy. But thanks, Robert, appreciate it. And so I had 54 queens in that one colony. So I wanted, and they were all getting loved on, right? So I just took the small block out and then half the other one. So I still got a bunch of queens. I mean, I've got I've got about 38 or something. No, I have.
When you're banking them queens like that, what do? Put queen excluder, and then you put them on top of that so that the other queen doesn't kill them or whatever? Or is it a queenless hive?
No, it's got a queen in it. But remember, I shook all the bees down in the bottom box and put the brood frames in that middle box. And I've got a queen excluder in between those. And then what I did is I put a third box on, pulled a couple frames of brood up in there, and then I set those banks of queens right on top of the brood frame in between some brood frames. So all the nurse bees come up, and of course they can hear them. That he's that they will cover them up, and they're doing good right now.
Yeah,
so those queens can be far enough away from the queen in the bottom box to not affect her.
Yeah, I've never done that. And I've seen some videos about it, but it sounded like what you did, like you said, you spaced them so far up that, and then you kind of encapsulated them around.
Mm-hmm.
All them bees are going to really jump on them.
So, and then ideally not leave them in there too long. Right. Mm-hmm. So it just buys me time to be able to work. So bees that I split, I took the existing queen and moved her to her own nuke box. So she's got bees that she doesn't have to be accepted, right? She just got split off. And the other ones so there were no queens in any of those boxes. So they should be good.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. When I get queens like that, I don't have 50 of them or nothing like that, but I get panicky as far as getting them in the hive. I want them in the hive as quick as possible.
I just popped James down until till they come back on video. I guess when they get to the apiary, then we'll turn them back on. They're still in the green room, so to speak. But yeah, so hey, Dennis, I'm gonna have to go get some of that too, some of that syrup. I need some more. But the main thing is that even with my 2 framers, I'm buying time. Oh, he's back. Hold on. Sorry, I just had moved you down while you were muted and
Oh yeah, you
out
just
of
take
there.
the opportunity you can to stick me in the back room. I get it.
In the back room, back of the bus, Mr. McNally.
That's right. The Canadians to the back of the bus.
But yeah, so I'm probably gonna end up buying some more nuke, and the reason is because if I'm gonna
more nukes or more nuke boxes.
I'm gonna buy more nuke boxes, so in the spring I can have nukes ready to go for customers.
Like pro nukes or
No, like, well, I don't
like
really need
like
them.
two frame nuke boxes, Bob?
That's 2-frame mating nukes, sir. Mating nukes, but they're mated already. But it should take them a good minute to fill that little box up anyway. But no, I'm probably gonna buy some more nuke boxes so I can just have them split and ready to go, so I can put queens in them when I graft in the spring. So I'll be able to sell more nukes. It's the idea, more nukes. It's like I'm just trying to be like my visionary James there. More nukes in the spring to give me a cash flow until honey. So I can, I got to I can't I can't walk the line. I can't be the on the fence guy. Everything to me is usually black or white. I don't like to be in that little gray area, right? So it's like I either have to do it 100% or not do it at all. Either it makes sense to do or it doesn't make sense to do. So now what makes sense to me doesn't make sense to everybody else. I understand that. That's a gray area for everybody else.
There's a big difference between Bob sense and common sense.
Right. That's true. That is true.
No, that's what I've always said. If you're going to do it, it's worth doing. And if you're going to do it right. So you're either all in or nothing. So.
But you obviously didn't see that I used the James McNally method of splitting to bring up the brood over the queen excluder, bring all the bees up, and then can make the splits, make good, strong splits.
Is that what your video today was on?
No, that was yesterday.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I haven't had a chance to see too many videos, and with my new position at work, I'm even busier. So I'm usually not getting home now till a little bit later and everything too. So.
No, yeah, that was yesterday. And it worked really well as I knew it would, but it makes it so much easier when you go back in there the next day or later on, and you can just grab those frames out and move them easy peasy, right? So the only drawback Brad brought up last night is, well, how much brood did you leave down, right? So if you didn't leave enough down, then over the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a brood break, essentially.
Well, and that might not be a bad thing. You might want to do that intentionally.
With mite treatment.
Exactly. So that can be a very powerful tool if used in the right way.
So we're going to see, but it will allow me to bring those colonies down to 1 deep and let them just go to town in that one deep. Since I put drawn comb down there for her, she should have went to town laying it up down there. So,
Yep. Did you see my short there the other day?
I've seen a lot of your shorts.
They were some.
I've never seen you in.
I have never seen. I mean, frame after frame after frame like that. I mean, carpet frames. Like, my gosh.
So those are my queens, and that's why I have spent the last period of time trying to select and breed my own queens. But isn't that something? Those are going to be my winter bees. So
I have never, it's just like phenomenal.
So I don't, and see, that's one thing that I talked about the other day with somebody. I don't think I get a true winter bee here. I don't get as many bees, but I don't think I ever get a true winter bee because they can fly all the time.
Right. So Brad introduced me to a research gentleman by the name of Lloyd Harris when I was down there. And he spent years on research of winter bee and bee longevity. And he was nice enough to provide me not only the copy of his thesis and his published thesis and letter, but he's also provided me all of his entire lifetime span of data. And it is incredible what you can do with that data. Like, it is something else. So, I'm going to be spending a lot of time this winter going through all of that information. But yeah, up here where we're at right now, so pretty much the bees that are going to hatch out within the next couple of weeks are going to be the bees that we're going to have go through a winter. So when you see slabs of capped brood like that, now, if you watch that short, the capped brood starts to dwindle off, but everything else is all laid up in eggs. And that's what I try to do to manage my colony this time of year, is to make sure that there's that amount of time and that amount of bees in there to do exactly that, right? Make sure that I've got a good, healthy bee population going into winter.
Is the so, like in my situation down here, because we don't, unless I make it broodless, like we just were discussing, there's not a we don't typically go 100% broodless. So it's so that's one of the things that it's like is I don't know if it's a challenge, or I guess it is a little bit of a challenge, because the days get shorter and they don't fly as often, because we do get some cool days there, but not to the point of just totally shutting down usually. Why is this?
Well, we don't go completely broodless here either.
Looking. There's that one again.
Butterfly.
Let me see. I was looking for the
See, up here we got to feed our bees true Canadian sugar, eh?
How many pounds is that?
44 pounds. The now the heavy lifting. Well, you got to put water in the tank first, unless you already got it.
So
there.
now it says sugar on the left side. What's
Sugar.
it, French or something on the right side?
Yeah.
Oui.
Sugar.
See, Canadian bees only elite Canadian sugar.
This stuff is from Tabor.
Now, is that beet sugar or regular?
That's regular table sugar. All
And-
natural Canadian sugar.
Refined in Canada.
It's Canadian sugar.
Oh, Todd asked, "How's your mite counts going?"
Haven't done one yet.
That's next on the project. Next time we're out here.
Just shake mites next time.
Yeah. You betcha.
The choking up. Choking up here.
It'll kill you.
DC, you can get 50-pound bags, but you got to go to like Sam's Club or Costco or something like that.
This came from Costco.
Is it how much you guys paying a pound up there right now?
We bought this last year. It was 26 something. It hasn't gone up yet.
A bag.
A bag, yeah.
So $26 Canadian.
Yeah.
Or 20.
Or like $3.45 US.
Yeah, I'm putting in the conversion right now.
Yeah.
$19.21 for 44 pounds.
Can't be too bad. He hasn't.
No, that's actually awesome price.
43 cents.
43 cents. What we're paying 65 cents if you buy it in the bag like that.
Oh yeah.
So $16.54 for 25 pounds. Todd said out where he's at.
Oh yeah.
I've got I buy syrup, sucrose syrup from the sugar plant, so I get a little bit better deal than most people. But I got to go get it, which is kind of where I'm at now. So I'll probably have to go buy some sugar in the meanwhile till I can get up there. But
How you guys gonna mix that stuff tonight? You got a mixing
Water
machine?
and a mix master, like a beater on a drill.
Oh, yeah, in a 5-gallon bucket.
No, in a tank.
45-gallon tank.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do it in 1,000
Nice
liters.
camper.
That's where it's going to get done tonight. That's the other project we have to get fixed and done.
In our spare
Yeah,
time.
I got that.
well, Charlie's got a pump mixer, right? You got the pump in there with the
Agitator, just the pipe. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I got a 55-gallon honey drum, and then I heat the water, put the sugar in, let it cool overnight, and then I gravity flow it into a 40-gallon tank.
But how do you mix it? How are you mixing it?
There's a drill motor with a propeller on the end of it.
Oh, okay. So you're using a drill motor as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's attached
I got
to
you.
the it's on a
So you're not
stand, I
using
think.
like the trash pump that flows the water around to swirl it.
No.
That's what it's going to be like when this one's done. We did
The
custom
trash pump
spraying,
is
and that's
good
to give it
if you're not
spraying.
going to heat the water. It works fine. Mine, I'm heating the water, but I got a impeller on there that's spinning, and it keeps the sugar and the water all mixed up until it.
Yeah, we heat our water as well. So
What do you put, like 120 or through a hot water tank?
through a hot water tank, yeah. So it's 120-gallon hot water tank.
All right.
Comes out at that. I think what is it? We got it set at 140 degrees. I think 140, 143 degrees, something like that.
Anyways, we should get going here and get to work.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate you stopping in.
That's it. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
See ya.
And yeah, so that's it's always I feel like I'm behind the next step always, right? Or maybe I'm just looking forward and know what I have to do next is kind of the feeling, but I always feel like I'm behind. Even like the queens, obviously I wasn't ready for my queens. I didn't have all the splits made up, right? So so now I got to go back in a day or so and knock down all cells, and hopefully the queen hadn't been released yet, but chances are, because there's not that much of nectar flow going on, that they will have eaten that little sugar plug out of there and got her out of there.
Did you put any tape over it?
No, there's no tape on it right now. So all of those bees seem to be loving on her. So we're going to roll the dice. Hopefully they'll love her more in 2 days than they loved her today. That's the only thing. And she can get right out and lay up her frames, and then it's just going to be feed, 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 feed. No, it won't cause robbing.
No.
It doesn't have any anything. It doesn't have an attractant other than the sugar that's in there, but you can use it.
Most of your like Honeybee Healthy and all these other things, you got lemongrass in there. That's the worst thing you could do right now is have something with lemongrass in.
Let all the bees know where the sugar water is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what we've been doing. Yes, I do have them banked. Ryan, come on in, man. You always come on Charlie's streams or Lee's stream. You don't come on Bob's stream. I'm feeling left out. Look,
I'll be back. I'm gonna go drink.
I'm getting a suntan on my forehead, man.
We're at.
Hey, Brian. Ah, my man. Brian.
Hey, Bob.
What's going on, man? I saw some smoke come up. You got your incense burning or your well, you don't smoke this anyway that I know, I know about.
Not tonight. No, not tonight. So how many you got banked?
Well, I got 54 in. And originally I had them all banked. And then I went back and grabbed a set of them out and made my first splits. I took all my swarm colonies and all those double deep swarms and stuff I had in the back, they all got broke out into nukes with bees and queens. And they seem to be doing well. It's hard to tell first day, right? But when I put the queen on top of the colonies, they came right up and started loving on her. So, so that's a good sign. And then I got right now, I just pulled, let me see, did I write it? Nope, I did my other math on here. So I had 54 minus, is it 16? 14? 14. No, 16.
Yeah, 14, did you?
I've got 38 banked right now. And then tomorrow I'll do some more splits. And then, while I can work it out, that day job thing's a bitch. Plus, possibly having, I'm really surprised because a few weeks ago, everybody was calling me, you got queens, you got queens, you got queens. Now I have queens and I posted it up in a few places. Nothing. So
There's still plenty of time left for that.
Well, anything that I sell out of those queens does two things, right? It actually allows me to offset the cost of my queens, whether and it allows me to not have to make as many splits, or it allows me to make stronger splits with the resources that I have. So that's kind of where I'm going right now. But yeah, I take well, you know how to bank queens, but I mean, I just got my double deep that I had taken all of the brood that I was going to use for splits and put in that second box over the queen excluder with all the queen and drawn comb in the bottom. So the regular queen is in the bottom, laying up those. Then I've got the queen excluder. Then I have the brood frames that I'm going to use for splits. But on top of those brood frames, I put another box. I took 2 frames of brood up to the third box
Okay.
and put 2 drawn combs in their place in the bottom box. And then I set all of those queens right in the middle on top of the brood. So all the nurse bees come up. They got to cover the brood that's on the outsides of them, and they just cover all the queens sitting there on top and take care of them. So yeah, that's the thing. But I didn't. So I put them all in there. Then I started removing queens, right, with technically attendants on the outside and setting those on the top of the other colonies that I made splits for. And that way, not as many bees in that bank have to cover those as I remove them. It gets less and less that I have to tend to queens. So, but you know, who knows? A lot of that was cap brood that was pretty dark, so it could be starting to hatch out like already today. You know, bees hatching out of it.
And how many did you get?
I ordered 50. He sent me 54.
That's right. Okay.
And I was like, at 50, I was like, you know, am I going to have enough equipment? Now it's like, somebody better come buy some queens, you know, or something. But,
Was it like 100, 150 for shipping?
I can tell you exactly. I got my sheet right here. So if I ordered 50 queens at $20, it cost me $1,000. It cost me $101.40 shipping.
Okay.
So, you know, you figure that's $2 a queen.
Yeah. That's not
Actually
bad.
less because he sent me more queens than I ordered, right? So yeah, so we're gonna see. I'm with those swarm colonies. When I found the queen, whatever frame she was on with those bees got moved to their own box. So I removed her out as I'm doing the splits.
Yeah.
And that way those bees are having time to realize mama's gone. You know, they're already starting to make that adjustment on something's going on. And, you know, we'll see. Man, we never know. I mean, even if they were perfect, that doesn't mean they're going to survive, right? That doesn't mean they're going to work. I'm playing the numbers, the odds right now. I know there's going to be a percentage that don't make it, percentage that do make it, and I'm assuming that I'm going to believe that I can do the job that it needs to get a high percentage of you know, good little colonies there. And because our weather is so mild here, not in the summer, but now we're starting to slowly see the temperatures starting to drop. And so hopefully they'll have a good 2 months to get a nice cluster in those boxes ready to go. And then hopefully I can order enough boxes to accommodate 5 framers, right?
So you've got more splits to make tomorrow to accommodate the queens in the bank.
Right, probably tomorrow and probably Saturday because I've got a pretty full day tomorrow. Hey, look, it's Homer Simpson.
I would. Hey, Brad.
Oh, come on! You do a better Homer than Doe. You're not going to do it, are you? You're on the spot now, and it's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, it's got to be context. You need something to say.
This guy's amazing when it comes to impersonations. Just saying.
No, they said doing good. It's only for people like Flanders. Hey, Flanders.
It gets me.
I was gonna say, Bob, I might consider tape on those queens in your future ones, especially since that brood hasn't aged out yet. I think that would increase your odds a little bit.
So that's the. I just need a good population for the box they're in. Right now, I understand. Everyone says, "Well, I've done it in a 3-frame nuke." I've never done it in a 2-frame nuke, but I've done it in a 3-frame nuke, and it's like, yeah, I get it.
Dude, my last round was 1 frame. It was
See?
in a 4-frame box,
Oh, well, there you go. They could grow in there,
but it was 1 frame of brood and bees,
and that's
and it wasn't an intro. It was a mating nuke.
yeah. So I've got the 2 frames, but it's like 1 frame of nectar and pollen, 1 frame of brood, and a newly mated queen. So
Yeah, a little bit of space there.
yeah, I mean, like
No, I mean she got space to lay.
oh yeah, she's got some. Well, the brood is dark capped. It's going to take them a few days to get her out. It's going to take them bees a few days to hatch out. So, and there is some open cells as well. So she should have.
It's just always nice to have a report card, right? To be able to
Right.
look at that and say, "Oh, look, my new queen is actually laying." That's nice. And once she gets that, new brood pheromone, that helps the bees to understand that, yeah, she got it going on. Instead of just, what in the world is this queen doing? Maybe we should
Squash her.
make a plan and
Right.
get rid of her.
Well, it was
What's
pretty
that brood
amazing. That colony was so mean, that swarm colony that I used to make most of them was really an aggressive colony. And then as I'm breaking it down, I said, oh, well, now I understand, right? There was a ton of hive beetles on the bottom board, probably 100 hive beetles on the bottom board. They hadn't wrecked anything in there because the population was so dense and they were harassing them. But once I took that bottom box and bottom board that had all those beetles on it out of there, and they were just bees on frames in their own colonies with a queen on top of them, man, their whole demeanor just flipped with those bees.
Good.
So
good.
And they were loving her. They weren't like trying to sting her or anything like that. They just covered her up and had their heads poking in there. So
nice.
So yeah, they looked like they were doing a good job with those. Well, but there's no guarantees. I mean, it is what it is. It's a gamble. And I've never done splits this time of the year here, but I would think that if any climate could do it, it would be the southern United States would be able to make splits at this time,
Well, we do splits here. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
but
guys
you
doing
do-
splits right now.
Big splits, right?
Oh yeah,
I
it's
mean-
not 2 frames. Yeah.
That's the thing. Oh yeah. Okay, so here we go.
Oh, a 500-gram squeeze, like a plastic squeeze bottle. And don't say bears. I don't want bears. But just like a Man Lake Skep kind of a squeeze bottle.
Like this one.
Exactly like that one.
But 50
That's what I'm
grams
looking for.
bigger. 50 grams larger. But
Yeah, a pound is only 454, and I need 500.
I know you guys think I smoke like crazy, but I light it, I set it over there, it goes out. So I light it again. You guys are probably thinking I'm just lighting different cigarettes, but it's the same cigarette.
It's just incense is what it is, really, right, Bob?
Well, what it is, this is my weed. I just bought a cigarette roller. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, don't get like, oh, I can't believe he said that, but yeah. It's just a cigarette. Yeah,
Sure.
he does make them into September over there. And he said they've had success overwintering them. So we'll see how that goes. But I've done things that Dennis
Well,
that
no,
David
and that's great because, like I say, we make splits here this time of year, and I've wintered those. I've wintered 3 deeps. I think is the smallest deep nuke I've wintered. I've wintered minis, like a 5-frame mini, and
talking about
yeah,
the little
I've
cube.
had good success. They were my quads. So what it was is it's a medium depth.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, Mark? Medium 10 frame box, like a Honey Super kind of a thing.
Split in 4.
And then I split into 4, so there's 4. It's a quad, I call it. And so yeah, and then I make the little frames. They're like a 9-inch top bar, and there's 5 of those. So there's basically 5 medium minis in this little quad, and yeah, winter that.
The well, we're fitting to find out, as they say down here in the South.
Fitting to find out.
Fitting to find out. Mark knows all
Fitting
about
to.
that. Fitting to.
Fitting to.
Fixing to find.
Fixing to.
Fitting to.
Fitting to.
Fitting to.
So we'll see. I don't know. Worst case scenario, I've got 2 zombies out there from swarm colonies, and they provided me enough bees to make 16 splits. So use the resources.
Well,
right?
I powered out on escapes today, Bob. I just
Did
couldn't
you?
hack it anymore, so I gave up.
Just quit. Said,
Yeah,
there's
quit.
always tomorrow.
My feet get so sore.
But he sent me this
I don't know
photo.
how many I did.
He
Might have
sent me
done
this,
20.
he sent
Yeah,
me
show him the picture.
he sent me this photo, and I'll show both of them. Let me see. Present, share screen, entire screen over here. Boom. Add to stream. Make it big. So, Charlie, what is that?
A hive lifter.
Backsaber 6100.
And unless you're overloading it with stacks taller than the hive lifter.
Well, I can't lift. I can't lift high enough to manage those 5 deeps high.
So, how many deeps
So-
can you get on that hive lifter at one time?
Well, it'll lift. It'll lift anything. Like it'll lift probably 400 pounds or more, but you can't manage it, and it won't lift really that high. I don't like lifting more than 3 on it. 4, I've lifted 4, and I lifted 4 a couple times today, and that's no fun. It's just a handful to manage. Just too heavy.
Now, when you first got it, how many times did the thing fall over and smash up boxes when you're doing it?
0 actually.
None. You've never tipped it. See, Charlie? Perfect.
Oh. I think this is this my 4th season with it, and the only time I ever had a mishap, and it really wasn't that big a deal, nothing fell off, was the little hand things that lift on the handles on the box, go in there, and one of the boxes, it was the box's fault, and there was, just because of the way the grain went in the box, right at the top of the handhold, the whole, not the whole side of the box, but the outside of the box just blew off. And so there was no more handhold. And it just kind of, I think I had 3 high at that point. And so it just kind of dropped a little bit on that one side. It was a very hairy situation, but it just kind of dropped until it jammed so it wouldn't go down anymore. And so I just had to set it down. But that was the box's fault.
That's the box's fault.
That was the box's fault. It wasn't the machine. There was a flaw in the box. Well, it wasn't a flaw in the box. It's just the way the grain went in the wood.
You know how many people have sent me that post about that murder hornet cousin in Georgia? Probably 50 people. Like,
Yeah,
they don't know,
I get it.
not plugged in. But it's all good.
People are still sending me Flow Hive links and saying, "Oh, have you seen this?" It's like, yeah, really?
You're not going to order 150 of those to run your apiary?
Yeah, right.
You would never have to extract anything. You'd be out there all day jarring,
Yeah, right.
bucket in and out.
You know what? If I had, I was total hobbyist and whatnot, 5 colonies and everything, I'd probably have one of those just for novelty.
Right.
Well, Bob, I wanted to jump in there and tell you, I wouldn't go and spend the money on a bunch of nukes unless you just want them. I'd take them 10 frame boxes and use them. I'd
Yeah,
get me some dividers, and if you have to, just run you some duct tape down through there. Duct tape them.
some follower boards and split them.
Yeah, just run duct tape down through there if you have to. I wouldn't go spend the money on them, on nukes. I'd save that money. That's just me.
Probably a good idea. I was just sitting there
I
thinking,
think that's
well,
good advice. It's
if
always
my-
hard to know exactly how you want to manage things until you do. And, you know, when you jump in with a bunch of new equipment, you think, oh, this is exactly the way I want to do it. You get a year or two into that, you realize, man, this is not what I want to do. I want to do something else. And now you've invested in all this equipment. I've done that. That's experience speaking.
hey, Robert.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you fine. Good to see you.
Loud and clear.
All right, Brad. I got a question for you.
Okay,
I've hit you up a couple times on the similar question, but I'm getting ready to order some queens from Jose to switch out some of my existing stock. So right now I have about 46 colonies, but in my area, the average person is pulling 60 to 80 pounds. And this year, many of them pulled 100 pounds per colony. I only averaged 25 pounds per colony, but on half of my colonies. So I have 20 colonies sitting in the woods. It's a oil land that goes back and opens up in the woods. There's probably 30 or 40 acres of woods. It's a beautiful spot, and it seems like, their bees are fully protected. There's an opening in the canopy where they've logged it out, and so there's sunlight in there. However, I think that there's a problem with the fact that they're in the woods, that they're not getting enough sunlight to go out and harvest throughout the day. And then the other side of that is I have another 20. So lack of better, I've got like 24 on one and 18 on the other, but for easy math, it's like 20 and 20. So the one that has in the woods, I average about 25 pounds per hive. The one that is setting, I have 20 that are sitting on the side of a field. It's a bean field this year. They pulled in about 50 pounds per hive. They're still, all of them are under the average. And I didn't harvest this year until the second week of July, which is really late for me, but I pulled the second week of July because I was waiting for my new equipment to come in and get it all set up and a new honey house, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, my first question on that is, it's obviously the sun, the fact that they're in the sun, they're harvesting longer in the day, they're flying longer in the day. And that's why I'm doubling my yields. They're only about 2 miles apart, maybe at most 3 miles, but I think they're only about 2 miles apart. So they have the same foliage. What is that? And the genetic wise, they're all mutts. They're all interbred. So I don't think there's anything different. So I'm debating, do I change out all my genetics and try to get some better genetics in there? Do I move them all out into a field? And then even at that, they're underproducing what colonies. There's a guy that I met that's a mile up the road. His hives are a mile up the road. He's got 12 hives. He outproduced me 2 to 1. A mile up the road. So I don't know what I'm doing different.
These are overwintered colonies?
These are overwintered colonies.
Are they singles or doubles?
So I do. I got to do the single hive management. Yeah. So brood management.
Stay with me now. Single brood chamber management. That's kind of the secret handshake of the group, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm just confused what to do with the situation because
that does seem kind of odd.
I've been doing.
I don't know if I got any wisdom for you.
I've been doing this for 5 seasons, and every year I lose like 60 to 80% of my hives, even though I treat. Well, the first couple of years I didn't treat, and I didn't do as well. I mean, I lost 10 out of 12 my first 2 seasons, basically. This year I only lost I went into the winter with 30 hives, 36. I lost 6 before winter. I came out winter. I went in with winter 30, came out with 18. So I did have to split those 18. I took those 18 and I split those out, but I didn't. They were pretty heavy splits. I think they were 4-frame splits, 6-frame splits. But anyway, right now they're all single brood deeps, and then I have 3 supers, medium supers on top. And here, one other thing on this long story. Sorry for drawing this out so long. The last part of this is I pulled the honey the second week of July. We usually have a dirt end of July, all of August. I went back a week and a half later, and they almost filled an entire super, and they hadn't filled a super since March, and they filled them as an entire super in about a week and a half. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I don't know if it's just the weather, the genetics. I don't know.
Where are you located at?
Columbus, Ohio, basically. It's for easy. I'm about 45 minutes north.
Yeah, you're not too.
I don't have any wisdom for you. I do know that the sunlight thing, that is a thing. I don't know how heavily it hits the harvest, but it's got to, because I know my apiary that got flooded last year, it was a little closer to a tall stand of trees to the west, and so the shadow from those trees would come across that apiary a little bit earlier in the day than where the apiary is now. And I know when that shadow from those trees comes up and across those hives, boy, they shut her down. Now with a little bit more open and more sunlight hours, they don't shut it down as early. So that's definitely a thing.
It takes more to keep the brood warm too. The longer they have to stay on that brood longer and harder to keep it warm during the day if it's shaded.
That's a good point.
You've got more bees there taking care of brood and trying to raise brood that could be out foraging.
Well, they're eating more too.
The ones on the field, they're on a tree line. There's a creek line and a tree line, and they're sitting on that right next to a bean. It's probably a 100-acre bean field, and I only lost 1 hive out of 10 on that site. So I had 10 hives there. I lost 1 over winter, and I believe that was a queen problem anyway. The ones in the woods, I lost 50%.
They're in the woods.
Yeah, I'd get them out of them woods.
I bet you got beetle problems too, don't you?
No, I don't have any beetles.
No.
I only seen through my entire harvest. I've seen 2 beetles.
All right. Now Brian at Castle Hives, he's in Ohio.
Yeah, he's about 45 minutes north of me.
Did you have drawn comb on all those colonies? How much comb did you have to draw?
All drawn. This year I bought 80 supers with drawn comb this year. So I had maybe a dozen or so of my own, and then I bought 80 used pieces of equipment. So they're 10-frame. They're 10-frame supers with 9 comb.
Is there good forage around all of them in the woods?
I thought there was. Like I said, I was at, whenever I go to the local shows, I always ask the guys, how their harvest was and everything. And because they're local, most of them are within, one of them, like I said, is within a mile of my place, and they got almost 100 pounds per hive. They have 12 hives, and they ended up with 300 pounds in the spring, and then another 300 pounds in July. 600 pounds at 12 hives. It was insane. I'm getting, like I said, I think I'm 40 hives. I had 975 pounds. Now, granted, I'm getting ready to harvest again this weekend because I have full supers on every hive now, which it shouldn't even happen. There should be a dearth, but yet they filled it. It's just crazy times this year.
Do you know if they go ahead?
I was talking to Brian. He said that you got spotted lanternfly in your area now. Have you seen
I
them?
think this is bean actually, because the beans when they bloomed was the same week that those all those supers filled, which is surprising because beans don't usually provide any nectar that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I found. Um, depends on what kind of bean it is, whether or not it's like the cotton honey that Jeremy talks about. There's some cotton honey that blooms. It's the old style that does produce nectar, and there's old style beans that produce nectar.
It must be the beans because I mean they literally there's over I think there's like 400 acres or something in total just right in front of them, and the 2 weeks during that bloom, I was only gone like a week and a half. I came back and they were full, which was mind baffling because they hadn't filled them in 3 months, and yet they filled them in a little over a week. It felt like
Are
I
you
was
sure they didn't swarm?
No, I didn't have any swarms this year. I made sure that's how I went from 18 up to 40 was every week I would not week, but every 2 weeks I'd go out and I would steal resources and I would equalize all my hives. All my hives, all 40 of them are exactly the same. Because if one gets big this year, if one got bigger, I would steal the brood out of it and equalize down. And even I caught, I don't know, a few swarms this year, about 8 swarms, and I pulled brood and equalized all those. And the funny thing is 8 swarms produced a super of honey, and swarms never produce honey. And every one of them filled an entire super. But I think it's that bean, the soybean.
Is it
It was overnight, like they just filled up.
Is it Michael Palmer that's good? Brad will probably know this, or Brian or somebody has got that sheet that tells you the spreadsheet on you predict when your honey flow starts and when you need to have your colonies at max capacity.
Yeah, I've downloaded that.
You downloaded that one?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. That's I'm not sure that spreadsheet kind of is double-sided, right? Because you got to look at it and decide, basically the more brood that you have, cap brood, the bigger the colony is going to explode, right? The quicker, but it also the queen. So you got to kind of do the math which way you want to do it. So either you put a laying queen in there in one frame, or you put 5 frames of brood and no queen, or create a queen cell or whatever, and they'll equal out the same basically. That's kind of what Brad was saying earlier. He put 1 frame in there.
You say you got woods there. What kind of trees you got?
Everything.
Do you have a poplar tree? Do you have a locust tree?
We definitely have locust because I made locust honey this year in the early spring.
That'd be in May.
Not in about May. It was very short-lived. It was like 2 weeks, but
yeah, that's about right.
It was very strong.
Now, you got a single brood chamber, which is a deep queen excluder, and let's say 2.
I did not use queen excluders this year because of my expansion. I didn't have enough. I only had 12 queen excluders, so I went without queen excluders this year, and to me that was a huge mistake. I won't do that again. This is the first year I didn't do a queen excluder, and it was a nightmare. Come harvest, it was terrible.
Brood in all your honey frames. Brood in your honey supers.
It was that, but it's just everything about it. It was just awful. Trying to get them out of there because you don't know. You putting an excluder on there with the queen up there, and it was just awful. They were mean as hell, to be honest. It was the worst I've ever dealt with.
Okay, so this is one thing, and I don't know if this make your difference or not, but was the lack of queen excluders evenly distributed between these 2 locations? Because if you have no queen excluder, you're not really doing single brood chamber management, because you're missing the component of single brood chamber management that allows or causes the bees to fill that single brood chamber with brood, and pump all the honey upstairs. So then that nest then chimneys more, and then you end up with more honey in that single brood chamber, which isn't actually a single brood chamber because you have no queen excluder.
So the
Does
problem I
that
had this year on what you're
add up?
saying is I ended up with brood in my bottom and my deep and all 2 or 3 of my supers. It was
Yeah.
I had more brood than there was no honey in any of my, for the most part. Like I said, I would have 3 supers on every colony, and I didn't even get a full super of honey, and there wasn't honey stored down below. That queen laid out every inch of every box, and that was all my queens. It was the
Okay,
There
so
wasn't
more
there
brood.
wasn't any place for her to put it, or for the bees to put any honey then.
yeah. It
Well,
was.
somebody got to
I've never
feed
seen
that
it
brood,
like
right? If you got more brood, somebody's got to feed it, and they're going to feed it your honey,
that. Yep.
right?
I mean, bee
So,
population this year was
single
insane.
brood chamber management is more about a trade-off between, keeping that brood chamber tight and perhaps almost suppressing the production of the brood during the honey flow, so that for myriad of benefits, and one of them is maybe not quite as much brood to feed. Mel Disselcone cites a statistic that he says that in peak season, solstice onward, he says that the bees will feed 100 pounds of honey a month to the brood. That's a lot.
I could believe that because of the fact that there was you're talking all of April, May, June, and then 2 weeks in July, and I ended up with a half of a medium super of honey on 24 colonies. I mean,
Now, did you harvest that early honey and then come back and put empty supers on?
no, I didn't harvest early this year. I didn't have time with work and everything. I wasn't able to do it. So this year I ended up harvesting the second week of July. And then, like I said, luckily I did, because 2 weeks later they filled them all, that super right. I took the 3 supers off and put 1 back, an empty. And when I put that 1 empty back, like I said, they're all full. I had to go back and top super, or actually I under supered a few that were like if they were slammed, if there was no room left in the super at all, I went in and put 1 or 2 more supers back on. But now I know they're all slammed, so they may be all in the trees now. I haven't been out in 2 weeks since I harvested, so it's hard to say if I've had swarming now. But prior to that, I know I did. I had 1 hive out of 40 hives swarm this year. But
You equalized, number one, so you cut out your swarming problem.
Yep.
And now at this time of year, I've been out in my hives right behind me there. The last time I was in there, and that was, I put Aprivar strips in the last week or so of July, and I got into them last weekend just to check stores, and that was 3 weeks. There's brood in there, and there's some there's some slabs of cap brood and stuff like that, but it's at a point in time now where they're not going to swarm us, and we're kind of right on the same longitudinal, or whatever it is, parallel lines on, where Brian's weather and your weather and my weather are pretty much the same.
So I talked to Bob, and I was listening to him, and he was talking about how he got with Jose, and I contacted Jose today, and I'm going to pick up at least 25, and then I'm going to switch out anything that had last year's queens. I don't have a lot of last year's queens left. I think I have, because I only 18 made it through the season, and then of some of those, I've already replaced some. So the remaining 10, I want to replace those. And even if the ones that I overwintered, almost all of those were fresh queens from last June. So my queens are all young. So they're not old queens.
Well, I think part of that single brood chamber management, like Brad was talking about, when you got that excluder on there, single brood chamber management, is that once that queen lays out everything she can in the bottom, well, then she gets a little break, right? And she can't lay any more down there until they start hatching out. So you're regulating that the amount of brood, right? And also, like Brad said, you're limiting how their intake of nectar and stuff, right? Because you only have a certain number of babies. So that's probably where a big portion of that was too. And I did, trust me, your and I's situation is very similar. I came out of winter with 17 and I split and had 60, right? And I did the same thing. I only got 628 pounds of honey this year off of all of my colonies. But most of those ones are the original colonies are the ones that were producing honey and the ones that I used the excluders on. The ones that I didn't, well, she started moving up and like Brad said, started chimney, right? So then I find myself going back and putting an excluder on for that brood to hatch out, which now we're having to wait before they can backfill. And by that time, you've missed the season. You've missed that part of the flow. And so, yeah, definitely I'm learning the same hard lessons that you are right now.
The reason why I say I do single brood management is because over the winter, I winter them in a single deep. So that's about, I guess, is my single brood management is over winter. I slam them down to a single deep. And then what I do is I take the super and I actually flip it over and I put I just take a 1/4-inch plywood and I put 1/4-inch plywood with a hole in the center of it, create a feeder shim basically with my medium. And then I set that down and then I can put my feeders inside of there. I can put my sugar out. I did Mountain Camp or fondant. I actually did both. I put the sugar down and then the sugar, actually, the reason why I put it in there, I insulated the, I'm not going to probably do that again this year, but I had a couple rolls of ductwork insulation that it's like 3 or 4 foot, it's 4 foot tall insulation. I just took that and I wrapped it inside of, or I had some leftover from a job from years ago. I had black, like, I don't know, 5 mil plastic. So I laid that stuff down on my driveway. I wrapped the plastic around it. I taped it off, made a blanket out of it. I took that out and slammed all my hives together, 20 hives. And I wrapped that stuff end to end and then over the top and then taped it off. And I think they call those like hive, what do they call them? The hive cozies.
Bee cozies.
Yeah, it looked like a bee cozy, except for the top was completely covered as well. Anyway, the feeder shim, the way I took the super and I flipped it over and I put the sugar in there to absorb the moisture that was being collected in that top super. So the heat's rising up and collecting and dripping down on that sugar is my theory. And like you said, the hives that were on the side of the field, they did amazing. They all lived through it with just the single deep. The ones in the woods didn't fare as well. That was a 50% loss. But this was the first year I tried that. And like I said, out in the open, it worked great. This year, I think I'm going to just change it up and do just insulated cover and nothing else.
I may have missed a detail. Was the loss due to starvation?
I don't, that's kind of like a 50-50. Some of them did, but they had fondant and sugar on top of the hive. Like it was inches away. So, and I fed them heavy last winter. Matter of fact, that's why 6 of them, I went into winter with 36, or the beginning of winter, 36. I had 6 hives swarm in September, which should never happen. But I think it's because I overfed them. So I was trying to get them heavy because the year before I did have a bunch of starvation. So this last year I decided, okay, I'm going to get them heavy. So I went 2-to-1 and I put it on heavy and I plugged them
in a single box though.
In a single box, yeah. and I plugged them out, and then they swarmed. 6 of them swarmed in September. Everybody always said, "Oh, they'll never swarm in September." Yeah, they will. They're not that smart. They're looking at they're like, "I got all the resources I need. Let's go ahead and swarm."
I did that a couple years ago, and I, like you said, I overfed them. It wasn't in, I don't know if it was September or not. I think it might have been August. It was 2 to 3 years ago. Had one nuke swarm on me, and one of the 10 framers behind me swarm on me, and I overfed them. Instead of just giving them, let's say, 1 gallon of sugar water, I gave him 6 gallons, I'll say, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
And
See, that's the difficulty you have that we don't really have, because, man, once we're into September, get the pails on there, thick syrup, and feed them as hard as you can go, as long as they'll take it. And by the time they're done, I hope I can do it. I want to do a video this fall, probably maybe the 3rd week in October, perhaps, to go through a hive and show you in that hive, because I've only looked in my years of beekeeping, I've only looked in a colony in depth in that time of year a couple of times, and it's the craziest looking thing, because it's a honey super with a whole bunch of bees. It's 10 solid frames of capped syrup in that brood chamber, and it is this. The first time I looked at it, I texted Ian and I said, "That scared the crap out of me," because you look in a hive and you got no brood. What do you think, right? And he said, "Yeah, it scares the crap out of me too," but it works.
Last year I thought that I had actually lost queens in about, I don't know, 4 or 6 hives come around September, because there was no brood left, and I just assumed all my others were still laying. But these 4 or 6, there wasn't a single cell or a single egg in the entire hive. But all my others had plenty of brood. And I think it's just the difference of species or whatever, whether it's Italian or Carney or whatever. But
Yeah,
I had they completely shut down. So I actually added queens to a couple of the hives, and they killed the queen instantly. And I'm like, what in the hell? I just bought this, or just got
already had one.
Yeah. And then 2 of the hives, I just flat out gave up on them. And I was like, well, I'll just have the dead out in the spring, and I'll take care of them then. And they came out to be one of my biggest hives, because once again, they still had queens. I thought the queens were gone. So I think that's, once again, it's the difference between a Carney or, Italian or whatever, Russian.
And that's also an indication. Remember, I was talking about feeding brood. Because they have no brood, they do not burn through that feed very fast at all. It's just astounding how slow they eat that stored syrup in the winter, when they're brooding very slightly or not at all for periods of time. It's just amazing how little they eat when they're not brooding.
They don't. I put on fondant in that mountain camp, and over the wintertime, they hardly touch it. Now, come into spring, they do. They'll pound it down during the spring, but in the winter, they hardly touch it. But we have a lot of warm weather in the winter. It's real hit or miss. It could be 20 below one day, and the next day, as Charlie probably knows, it could be 20 below one day, and it could be 80 degrees for a week
well, let's say 60 or so.
All right, 60. We always get
it feels like 80,
They call it Indian summer. We always get it every year. It can be in December typically.
That's the same with pollen patties. I found I'll add a pollen patty whenever. Like I often add them early September. I'll give them a pound at least, and I use them in the spring. But you add a pollen patty, and then you do your inspections, a week later or something. Pollen patty's still there. They haven't touched it. Well, you got no queen. That's why, you can kind of go by that.
Yeah, you don't have to go in a whole box and look. You can just look for your patty.
Yeah, if they're not brooding, they're not using
They're not
pollen
eating.
or pollen patties or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of the food goes to feeding babies.
So do you think I should pull most of those bees out of the woods then?
I would.
That's you. I can't say.
You know, it's
The only
my
thing
favorite
I'm
spot.
thinking of is speed wise. I don't know whether you maybe ought to, instead of being just a single box, maybe you need a medium on there.
The ones
That
in the
way-
wood.
Well, I'm looking at, are you running out of feed on most of them or not?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, it's like
Now,
I say,
so
it's
you're
really
putting
hit or
mountain
miss.
camp. You're putting mountain camp on what, top of the inner cover? Or
No, so I'm taking my medium super, flipping it upside down, and I'm putting it, in the rim. I tack on. I have a battery powered staple gun, and I'll take a 1/4 inch piece of ply, cut to fit. So I stick it inside that medium super, and I just put a couple staples in it. And there's a hole in the middle of it. I flip the super upside down, and that creates like a feeder shim. So inside that feeder shim, I dump in sugar, and then I put a bag of fondant in there. So they have the soft fondant, so that way, if they need immediate resources, they have that, and the sugar just keeps them busy. I feel like it gives them something to do when it's warm out. And then, like I said, this year I wrapped all my hives, which honestly, the ones that were on the edge of the field, I got 90% success with that. So I'm hesitant to do it again, but it did work. It's just a lot of work and a lot of materials and a lot of waste. I didn't like at the end of the year, the mice got all through it and just destroyed it. And so I ended up having to throw it all in the dump.
Yeah.
And I just hate throwing all that fiberglass insulation in the dump.
Yeah.
But the mice
I
love
mean,
it.
like the hives behind me there, they're out where I know which way the wind blows and all that kind of stuff. And we get a tremendous lot of wind, and the wind blows from the back end of those hives towards me in the video. And I put carpet around. I go, find some carpet installer. Hey, you ripping any carpet out lately? Yeah. I said, well, give me strips that are, let's say 5-6 feet wide. I don't care how long they are, 10 feet or more. And then I just cut them to where I wrap from the ground up from the backside and both sides of that hive. The front is wide open. It's a wind block. It's not for insulation.
Yeah, that's what I did in the previous years. I just took a tarp. I slam in the wintertime, I slam them all together. And they end up like that most of the year anyways. I slowly spread them apart in the spring, but I don't get them too far apart. And then in the winter, I'll slam them back together. And then I take a tarp and I wrap them with a tarp. And where they're positioned, the wind, there's a tree line and a creek. And they're on the west or the east side of that tree line, and our wind blows from the west to the east, so it's blocked. So it's a perfect spot considering the fact it's in the open. I mean, it's wide out in the open there. It's on a 100+ acre field. It might be a 400 acre field, really, but but they're fully protected for the most part. The ones in the wood, it's like a little paradise in there. It's kind of crazy. You go into this. It's a oil lanes. You go back, perfect. It's all graveled. I drive my car back there, and when you go into the woods, it opens up. He's logged it out in the middle, and there's like a little sanctuary in there, so I can pull up 5 feet from my car on my gravel driveway and do whatever I need to do. It's amazing, but it may not be so amazing for them.
Well, then you're telling me the canopy of the forest is open, so it's letting sunlight down into.
It is, but the opening in the canopy is not very big. The footprint, I can turn my car around in the footprint, but the canopy is there's probably only about a 30-foot diameter of open sunlight that comes down through. But the area is probably 100 feet in diameter.
Right.
So, like I said, I love the spot. It's like a little sanctuary. It's amazing. Like you go back in there and it's like the sun comes down to that little canopy, and it's just something like it should be, photographed or something, but I don't think it's doing well for the bees. And there's 24 colonies in that small 100-foot diameter area. So maybe I've just got too many hives in that area. I don't know. I mean, Bob's got more than I do in that same area, but
Got them slammed everywhere right now.
I don't know. It's finding out what your nectar sources are. That's the main thing.
I don't know if I'm convinced it's the type of bee that I have. All my bees are bees that I've caught them in swarms and then I've recreated them. I've created my own queens over the years from the original swarms, so they're all mutts. I don't know what they are.
I find it. Local bees, local queens, they do just as well, sometimes better. I think, like say Brad with doing the single brood chamber thing. The main thing that I've been doing is you still got to go in there and equalize. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's still that local thing, where I found with me, if I'm down I got 2 mediums as my single brood chamber box, and I still have to pull that cap brood out of there, about half of it. And then queen excluder, honey supers, a couple of them at least. And then this year, in order to okay, where am I going to put all this brood out? I put a box up on top. I shake all the bees off of those frames and I put them upstairs up on top. So that draws the bees up into the honey supers. And then if I do need it for another hive, I know all I got to do is go over to the top box and pull them out with the bees on it and put them in the other boxes, or just leave them in there and let them hatch out. And I cycle that brood frame from the bottom, the empties, keeps her laying in the bottom. She doesn't swarm. The bees hatch out in that same hive and they get a bigger field for us, which puts more honey. One thing I've noticed in my honey supers is if that honey super is just loaded with bees, completely covered, that hive's going to make you a crop. If it's like a cluster of bees on the 6 middle frames, it'll make you about a half a crop. And then if it's only on the sides of them frames and they're not up on the bars and all that kind of stuff, that hive ain't going to do nothing for you. And it's like you got to have a hive that is like on the verge of swarming in order to be a great honey producer. And all that's my observation of here in the last couple of years. And then this year I used Apis Biologic. Last fall I put 4 gallons of Apis sugar water into those hives behind me, and I was totally caught off guard when I was trying to do a video. And bees from the bottom board to the roof, and brood from the bottom board to the roof. Usually it was 3 mediums. The top 2 mediums was where everything was at, all the bees and the brood, and the bottom medium was completely empty except for maybe a handful of straggler bees. And not this year. Now I got to revamp my whole procedure of getting that top box off, pushing all the bees down, make sure the queen's down there. And there's going to be so many bees. I mean, it's overflowing with bees when you put that stuff on there. Put that queen excluder on there, and my plans are to put 2 honey supers right on immediately, and then take that top box that I just took off and put it upstairs. Now I'm going to draw all those bees up, and then when I want to go down into those 2 bottom boxes, I want to have the majority of my bees, or at least a third or so, in them boxes, so I can move bees around in boxes instead of having them up in the air and on the ground. And it was a mess this spring because I wasn't used to that. But Apis, that stuff works. It absolutely works. So I don't know.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for letting me interrupt your
I
time.
don't know. Come on my YouTube. I got a video in there about the mechanics of single brood chamber, both for mediums and for deeps. I just kind of go through and explain, what I've come up with, and it's pretty much what I told you tonight, but why it works for a lot of folks that don't know, and it's relatively new to me too.
Yeah, my thing this year is just with the expansion. I just didn't have all the queen excluders. I did purchase another 24. I just haven't put them on yet because the fact that I was going to put them on right after I harvested, and but I was like, what's the point at this point?
No, it's not now. It's all. I mean, it should be pretty much all over for you.
Well, that's what I thought, but like I said, I got to harvest again this weekend, so I'm going to have another, I don't know, 40 times at least one super in my bigger hives, probably 2 or 3 supers.
Now, with the soybeans out there, did you see a prominent flower? I mean, I've been watching them over the years, and sometimes there's just a very small little itty bitty flower on there.
Yeah, there's usually, it's like on a stem that has like a series of like 6 little flowers, and then some are white, some are purple. I don't understand what the difference is, but like I said, in past years, my hives have been in these same locations for 5 years, and this is the first year I've ever seen honey come off of them. And
well, if you know the farmer, go ask him. Did you plant a GMO style bean? Is it Roundup Ready bean? Or is it, I'll say, an old traditional soybean?
To be honest, I was afraid that they do around here. They heavily spray pesticides on their beans because the stink bugs tend to they bore into the pods, I guess, and it kills the
seed.
The seed, but
is it the stink bug or is it the rust, like soybean rust? And then if they're out there spraying and there's a lot and they're trying, and if that field is clean as a whistle, they're probably spraying a fungicide or a Roundup.
They sprayed the fungicide and the Roundup right over top of my hives, which scared the bejesus out of me. And I know they did because the vegetation on the backside of my hives was killed. So I know they Roundup right over the top of my hives, which I was kind of concerned about.
That's not the best thing. I mean, I got all that stuff right around me because we farm, and all that stuff. But we don't do that to our hives, as far as it's like Ian up there. His brother sprayed up to so many feet of his hives on the edge of that one bean field or whatever it was. You could tell where they sprayed. They had great looking beans, and where he missed, like he left a strip. It was terrible there, the pest or whatever it was they were trying to get a hold of.
So a couple of years ago, I had a lot of damage from pesticide from the beans. That's why, I kind of pay attention to the beans a little bit, but I think I figured out what the difference is. It's whether or not they're flowering at the time. If the beans are flowering when they spray the pesticides, the bees are going to have a hard time. They're going to get hit pretty heavy. But if the beans are not flowering at the time they spray, the bees aren't on them. They don't care, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. So this year, I think I just lucked out. But like I said, 2 seasons ago, I got hit pretty heavy with it. I came over, and there was probably a half dozen hives that were, zombied out. So not Brad's zombie, but
most pesticide labels I've read stipulate that it is not allowable to spray while the plant is flowering, and that's exactly why, because you'll kill all the pollinators.
Yeah. So this year,
but we know how well labels are followed, don't we?
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game there. But
now anyway, Eugene here says the purple blooms will produce nectar, the white blooms will not produce nectar. And that's the ones I normally see as white blooms, not purple. And usually they're probably
No.
pollinating, wind pollinating type stuff, just like corn. Corn's a wind pollinator. It doesn't need bees.
And I don't think the bees ever go to the corn. I've never seen my bees on the corn ever. And like I said, every other year they do corn and beans. They rotate, and I've never seen bees on the corn before.
Yeah,
Nothing there for them.
right.
Anyway, gentlemen, thank you for letting me bother you, and I appreciate your info.
No problem. Come on back. We enjoy. We
No bother.
like this kind of conversation and figuring things out and stuff like that. Trying to help people.
Yeah,
Talking bees.
I'm hoping
All
Jose's bees will boost my production for next year, because something's got to give. Because I can't keep underproducing. You know, I have 40 hives and I got a guy that's got 12 that's out producing me. It's like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like this year I did 975 pounds out of 12 hives.
Yeah, that's as much as I got out of 40.
Yeah, but now behind me there where the house is and all that, there are locust tree. There's a locust tree line going across there. And then across the road over in a forest, it's a lot of poplar trees. So there's a lot of, good tree nectar sources. And there's not much here on the farm as far as plants, as far as I know, because it's pretty much all, it's either beans or corn or hay. And the hay is pretty much clean. My son keeps it clean as far as any weeds and all that. And a little bit of, what do you call it, goldenrod in the fall here. And that's about all. And I don't even count that as a nectar source. So
Well, I'll definitely use those queen excluders. I think that's going to be a big part, Brad, for next year. This is the first year I didn't use them, and it was a world of difference. I've never seen so much brood in my life. They always say that they'll produce 6 frames of brood on an average hive. I had like 30. So
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
where their 6th frame comes from. 6 frames with a queen excluder.
well, it sounded like to me the queen is an excellent queen if they're producing that much.
They're sheets. These queens are producing sheets of brood, and
Yeah.
Just machine gun queen.
yeah, incredible. And like I said,
Yeah.
in every super and in the deep, you think they had honey somewhere tucked away. Matter of fact, I had my 2 largest hives starve to death in the middle of May this year. We had 4 days of rain, and they starved to death in those 4 days. And when I pulled out the brood, they literally, every inch of every frame, front and back, was laid out with brood, and they starved to death. It's crazy. I've never had a starve out in May ever, and I had 2 of them. I thought they were poisoned, and but they were all nose deep in the comb. And so I knew right as soon as I pulled it out what happened. Well, I shouldn't say I knew. That's what you see when you come out of winter, right? I mean, the starve outs, they're all nose deep.
Yeah, you don't expect to see that in the summer.
Yeah. In May, I had about 30,000 bees in the bottom of the box, just complete zombies, just piled up. And then I had probably another 5,000 or 10,000 right outside the front of the box. And the crazy thing is, they still had pollen on their legs. They were so concerned about pollen, they didn't even bring them. They starved to death. They didn't go out and get any nectar. There was a flow on, but they were more worried about pollen than nectar, and they starved to death.
That's weird.
That don't sound right.
I got pictures of it.
There's something wrong with that hive.
Well, I had 2 of them do that, and I sent that to Fred Dunn, and I sent him the videos and the pictures and the information, and he had his hive doing the same exact thing on the same day. We had a 4-day window in I think it was like the 1st or 2nd week of May, and they were just so brooded out that they didn't reserve any. They had no reserves, and that 4 days of rain, they just starved to death. That's crazy. But yeah, it was a wreck. And the funny thing is, when I opened up the hive and the pictures I sent him and stuff, there was one frame left with about 50 bees on it. And guess where the queen was? Right dead center in the middle of those 50 bees.
Mm-hmm.
So I took her and I combined her with another queenless hive, and man, she's a layer. She's incredible.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
All right. Yep.
All right, see ya.
We're almost at 11, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
We're on Charlie's tomorrow with the 4-Hers, 8 o'clock Eastern. So swing in there, and we'll talk bees with the teenagers. That'll be fun, and see what they got to say. But anyway, guys, you have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Good night, everybody.